sometimes when you're buying gifts for people, you want to add something, or you've got a KK, and I'm a big believer in that KK gifts are often, oh, here's a six-pack of beer, here's a candle. So I like to give stuff that I find brings me joy, and then the person may or may not like it, but otherwise they would have just got a candle, so who cares? So with that philosophy in mind, I'm joined by Andy from Games Portal to talk about some stocking stuffers or little games that can be a nice little gift for people. Is that a sort of game that you have a lot of?
Yeah, particularly I have two young kids, so we often have the got to find a present to give to one of them for a birthday party or something. So it's very similar to the stocking stuffer idea, where we need something relatively cheap, but something that we enjoy, as opposed to a generic got to quickly stop and find random present, i.e. candle or beer for somebody, which obviously doesn't work for the kids, but
yeah. Ideally not, but you never know. So first off, the top of the rank is for a little fun game for for lighter groups or people who aren't as into games. This one has worked for me. What about yourself?
Yeah, this one is very much you don't really need to be all that engaged to play this game. But it's also quite fun if you do want to become more engaged. You can kind of make as much out of it as you will. It's a great game for kids as a result, and it's one that parents can happily play with kids without having to explain too much, sort of thing. So it's a good fun little game where you are basically drawing from a loaded deck that has an exploding kitten in it. There's ways of manipulating the deck as you go, but the person who draws the exploding kitten has been eliminated because their kitten exploded. Possibly not a great one for animal lovers, but it is just the flavour and fun of the game that it sort of has some very silly art and silly cards on it that, fun sort of silly, where I'm just looking at the back of the box and reminded of the Taco Cat, which that sort of art and flavour to it.
And I guess with the games we're recommending today for this style of stocking stuffer is they're generally pretty small, again affordable, but also they're quick to start, which is important for sort of light games that you can sort of give to people who may not be really deep into the board gaming hobby. So we've got that. Then we've got, this is a game that you just introduced me to. Can you tell me about Dungeon Mayhem?
Dungeon Mayhem's a very quick little game that it's inspired by Dungeons & Dragons, which has been growingly popular over the last couple of years. It's a very, very quick to play game, very easy to pick up. It's a sort of game that we'll often start the night out while we're waiting for the last player to arrive for a board game night or something. But it's once again also a game that I can quite easily play with the kids, but we'll play with adult groups as the warm-up game for the night. It's fun and easy and quite cheap too.
Yeah, we played at 2 players. You could easily add a couple more people to play up to the max count of 4. So that's sort of a good thing with this, where you don't necessarily know what their group is like, or what their friends group is going to be. So yeah, they can play it with their partner or their close friend or one of their kids, or they can have a whole bunch of people. In terms of trying to figure out what your friends are doing and be on the same wavelength, we have The Mind.
This is once again a really good game to start the board game night off, sort of thing. It's one that we've often played with our board game group to get everyone in sync together and thinking on the same page. It's a very simple sort of idea where you've got to play cards in order from 1 to 100, which sounds quite bland, but once you start playing it, the catch is you're not allowed to talk and you're not allowed to openly communicate with each other. So it's very much to get one mind between each other.
Yeah, so there's a time of you're playing and you're like, oh, I've got a 50. I was like, oh, it's been a little while. And then you might be like, I slowly got to bring it down. Oh no, someone else had a 45. And then it's sort of, okay, let's just start again. We'll do it again. And it's one of those games where I think it sounds a bit silly when you first hear the description, but then you play, you're like, oh no, this is fun. Trying to get on the same wavelength and try to follow what's happening.
Yeah, when you do get on the same wavelength, it's a very satisfying game when you kind of all find yourself lining up in sync and you kind of get the idea of how long it takes before a number should be played. It's I find it a very satisfying game, and puts each other on the same page.
Now we've got the next game is a series of games is a bit bigger in terms of size, but can you tell us about Micro Macro?
Micro Macro is it's a fun game where you've got a map of a city which it's got great art to it, and it's got a little bit of a Where's Wally sort of vibe to it, but it's got a lot more going on. There's a whole story going on in this city, and you have to find out. I mean, it's a crime city, as the game would suggest. So you've got to solve the crimes as it goes, and it's one that you can play on your own or you can play as a group. I think personally it works better in a group because you sort of often will miss part of the story that's happening in the city and where somebody else will pick it up. But there's a lot of sort of you've got to find the different thing in the city, and while you're looking through the city, you'll notice bits of the art that you hadn't seen the last time you looked at it, and you get to see the story unfold as you go through it. And there's enough of a story that they've actually brought out a few expansions that are set in the same city. So it is a sort of play through once game, because once you've discovered what's happened in the city, you've now found the bits. So once you've solved the crime, it's been solved, but they've added more.
Well, I guess the benefit of that is you're not using up the game. That's when you just sort of, if you've got this one, you can trade with someone else who's got the other one, or you gift it on to someone else and they can explore everything the game has to offer.
Yeah, it doesn't get destroyed in the same way that some of the legacy games sort of do. This one is similar to a jigsaw puzzle in that way, is once you've done it, you might have done it, but it's still there. And I'm sure actually it's now been a little while since I've played the first one, so I could probably actually go back and play it again soon. We'll have forgotten enough of it.
So those are 4 games or 4 series that we recommend as sort of stocking stuffers or extra little gifts for friends, families, or colleagues that you have to buy gifts for. Andy, thanks for welcoming us to Games Portal to talk about those games.
No problems. Thanks for coming.